Well, let's get the reaction of Benedict Spence. First up to the Chris Cabba story, because...
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, we're just going to have a little sort of retirement home, a little safe retirement home, which is going to surround with almost like prison walls for the likes of Sergeant Martin Blake, who has that bounty on his head, the Batley Grammar School teacher, and others facing threats for their life forever. And we're just going to accept we have mob rule and we have criminal rule in this country. But what on earth are we doing with a situation where a Met officer found not guilty and this has happened again and again and again, and we're going to talk in an hour's time to an officer this has happened to, face years and years of misconduct hearings, civil proceedings, and inquest, everything. When he did his job, he probably saved lives, and he was doing the job we paid and trained him to do.
Yeah, the first thing I'm going to say is that firearms officers in this country, as was touched upon by a caller earlier, are phenomenally well trained and phenomenally disciplined. We don't measure the number of police shootings in this country by year, we do it by decade because there are so few. And when you break down who they are, they do tend to be either terrorists in the act of committing terrorist atrocities or very high-ranking criminal figures, people like Raoul Moat or Mark Duggan, people with known firearms history and a very long rap sheet. So that's the first thing to say, actually, is that we really need to get away from this nonsense idea that London or the UK is in any way comparable to 1950s Alabama and that all the police are good old boys basically going out and being corrupt and are very racist. It doesn't happen. It's not true. We need to move on from this nonsense narrative of racism being, you know, this sort of appalling thing that happened. There is racism in the police, no question about that.
And there are some wrong ones. We've seen that, the Wayne Couzens and others.
Firearms officers are phenomenally well trained. The second thing is, and I know that I can be quite hardline when it comes to certain crimes. I've said on this programme in the past that I believe if you're found carrying a knife, you should get a life sentence, and that is the way actually you drum into very stupid people. This is a very stupid way to behave, and it would nip that sort of thing in the bud. In my opinion, having said that I'm very happy that our firearms officers are very restrained and not many people are shot, I think if you are found to have taken out a hit on a police officer, there should be a shoot-on-sight policy because you clearly are a danger not just to law and order. Honestly, find me the people, apart from the traumatised community leaders apparently, who would be opposed to the idea of somebody who's brazen enough to say, I want to murder or be seen to be murdering somebody. What is the issue with going, OK, thanks very much, we know exactly what to do?
I have to say,
boost the number of people shot from 10 to 11 over a decade.
This is the thing, and again, something that, you know, Azir Yusuf commented out. I mean, you're more likely to be hit by lightning, killed by lightning. Lots more people are struck by lightning, but actually killed by lightning than you are to be killed by a police officer. Armed police officers are only called when there is a genuine risk of life. They're basically called in all these scenarios. You know, we go back to Mark Duggan in 2011. You get Chris Cabba. I mean, remarkably similar sort of cases in retrospect, where you basically got, you know, wrong-uns, criminals. The only reason they're being tailed by armed police officers is because they're being involved in serious crime, involved with guns, blah, blah, blah. That's why the police are there. If you're not involved in this stuff, it's amazing how often it doesn't happen. I mean, you've got Brazilian Jean-Charles de Menezes after the 2005 7/7 bombings. That was incredibly bad luck and an abject failure by management, but the two police officers who followed that guy onto a tube, believing he had a bomb that he was going to self-destruct on that tube, are two of the bravest people on the planet going up to him. Now, I mean, again, it was a terrible tragedy, but that wasn't their fault. They were trying to save lives. But this is the thing, you know, we see police officers open fire on average once or twice a year. In London, 4,000 incidents a year. Armed officers are called to, and they only open fire, like, on average twice. We've had a couple of years recently where not a single shot was fired by anyone. No one was killed. Not a single shot was fired. The idea that we've got these trigger-happy armed police officers, and the argument about this Sergeant Martin Blake was that he'd had a bad day, almost. Some people are saying that's why, you know, you were angry, you know. I mean, the idea that these people are just going around just like, just firing their weapons like some of these idiot cops in America. It's blatantly untrue. It is simply not possible to claim that and know any facts.
I mean, the greatest example is, in fact, something we had earlier this year when a couple of people decided it would be a great idea to get into an altercation at Manchester Airport with armed police officers, sending some of them, in fact, to hospital. Were they shot? No. In almost any other Western country, they would have been shot because actually an airport is a live situation. There are armed police officers on guard there 24/7 because they are terrorism targets. But actually, this country is not something where it is drummed into people that it is acceptable to just shoot a threat like that. You have to sort of go through all sorts of stages, all sorts of rigorous training. You have to make so all sorts of situations in the moment.
Well, I've had a caller earlier whose daughter's trained.
And that didn't happen. Had it been America or even France or Germany, those people would have been shot. They weren't. Okay, there was some bad behaviour by the police in the aftermath, but why wouldn't you expect that, given that they were being very violent? We are an incredibly tolerant and restrained country when it comes to the police, and I'm just fed up with the idea that every time somebody is not even shot, they're stopped and searched because actually their car has been linked to something, or they are wanted in connection or something, or they are a well-known criminal, that immediately it's, everything is dreadful and racist and the police are so bad. They are not.
But the thing is, these so-called black community leaders, the mayor of London who panders to this stuff every day, we know why, he's re-elected all the time, genuinely is pandering to this stuff. They are doing a great disservice to ethnic minority people in this country, because there isn't a black community. The idea that people who are born in this country, or people who've arrived from Nigeria, or people who are from the African Caribbean, an elderly black woman and a 12-year-old black boy, the idea that these people have anything in common other than the colour of their skin, frankly, it's an insult.
It is racist.
It is exactly that. It is racist.
To just assume that they are one homogenous block, they all think the same, they all do the same.
It is outrageously racist, and there aren't community leaders. There's no elections for people to represent black people in Britain, in London, or anything at all. That is not the case. So it's just a load of nonsense there. But they are doing a massive disservice, because the group that is most at risk from violent crime by the likes of the Chris Cabbers, black gang members in London and in other cities, are young black men. They are the most at risk. We see this with stabbings, we see this with gangland, and it is such a disservice. And again, we need to be able to root out those police officers who are misogynistic, dangerous, the rapists, the corrupt, and the racist. Absolutely, I don't want those people anywhere near the police force, and they should be, absolutely hung out to dry. But the idea that every time a white officer arrests, stops, or shoots dead a black man, that it must be motivated by racist malice of forethought is just an outrage, and it's got to stop. And the idea that this man is going to live in fear for his life, I just find absolutely extraordinary that we've done that to this man. And if I were an armed officer, if I was as brave as these people are, and they are brave, they are morally courageous, willing to take this job on. They're not, I want to shoot somebody. If you have an armed officer who is never actually ever shot, other than on a training ground, that is not someone, as I say, who's looking to to take seek blood. If I were as brave as them, which I am not, but if I were, I would down my tools. I would not be willing to do that job and face that happening to me and my family. Full stop.
Yeah, I think that the conduct of the judge in revealing the name, and not only in revealing the name, but the restrictions that were placed on the background of Chris Cabber, which I can see the arguments for, but in the aftermath, the jury wanted to release a letter. They published, they had a statement that they wanted to criticise the CPS and other people because they felt that it was an outrageous thing with this case, and the judge blocked them being allowed to read that out. And you just kind of think, in what world, what fantasy world do you live in where you think, oh, it's perfectly fine to identify this, but woe betide you, members of the jury, for criticising the apparatus of the state.
Let's talk about another story, which I still think is worth talking. That's the prisoner release yesterday. We know these are people who've been sentenced to more than 5 years behind bars. Seriously, if you get sentenced to more than 5 years behind bars, you've probably written more than just a tweet. That hurts someone's feelings. We've got some really nasty pieces of work who's come out, including a man who abducted and tortured a teenager. We know he did this because the evidence is quite clear, because he filmed a lot of it on his phone. And he's posing outside. Outside, this is Daniel Dowling-Brooks. He's freed 7 weeks early. He had a 7-year sentence for kidnap and grievous bodily harm, serving at HMP Swaleside in Kent. And he was among the first of more than 1,200 prisoners serving sentences of 5 years or more to be released yesterday. He was out of jail. He shouted, "Big up Keir Starmer," and then posed on a brand new £150,000 Bentley. There were an awful lot of people who were... a group of 10 friends outside the jail. There was a Mercedes G-wagon. There was also somebody who was picked up in some top-of-the-range black Rolls-Royce. I mean, I'm assuming these people are all terribly successful engineers and architects.
Yeah.
Maybe they work in the City of London. I don't know. I don't.
Do you know what? I suspect
Maybe they're all
in some
very
ways they do.
successful influencers and they're mostly into... I mean, I'm sorry. What on earth is going on? There's clearly question marks. I'm hoping the police are tailing all these people and going, let's just check how you were able to purchase this item.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, I think James Timpson, who has now been appointed, you know, the new prisons czar, which is always an optimistic
he's a prisons minister, unelected, unaccountable.
And he said in a tweet yesterday, this is to do with the appointment of David Gauke, he said that our prisons are overcrowded.
He's the former Tory Justice Secretary who's appointed to do the review into prisons, who basically, along with this new government, basically doesn't think we should send anyone to prison for less than a year.
And he said that our prisons are overcrowded, and the response to the Labour Party is to say that we put too many people in prison. And you look at these people and the way that they are behaving as they come out, and you think, no, we need to build more. Actually, these people
100%.
need to be spending... We do not simply... We have a duty of, obviously, proportionality and also rehabilitation. We're not doing that very clearly. But do you know what we also have? A duty to the public not to put them in danger by releasing dangerous, unreformed, unrepentant criminals back onto the streets.
There wasn't much repentance either 2 months ago when they were 1,700 released, or yesterday. There was a lot of you would be celebrating coming out of jail.
All that the Labour Party seems to care about is sort of justice for the individuals in prison. What is proportional? Actually, is this an acceptable sentence? Not, are these people going to go out and cause misery in their, that word again, communities? Are they going to be selling drugs? Are they going to be intimidating
people? This guy, Daniel Dowling-Brooks, he's just one of them. He's 7 weeks early from a 7-year sentence. So he's only served 4/10 of a 7-year sentence. I don't think 7 years is enough for kidnap and grievous bodily harm.
Yeah, I'm amazed to hear that that's all that you get. I mean, honestly, what message, though, does this send to people? When you're trying to sort of prevent crime, you're trying to give them sort of terrifying sentences to think, woe betide you if you do it, and you go, oh, I'll be out in 3 years, 3.5 years, fantastic. Not even that. Actually, it doesn't seem like that much for us, because it turns out the police won't turn up anyway. I can drive around in this, in this magnificent wagon, and they just go, how about that? Good for him.
I do find it funny that somebody just got out of prison is posing in front of you at £150,000 Bentley. We've got a second-hand diesel Tiguan. So proud. Anyway, I don't know what I've done wrong in my life, frankly. Not spent all my money.
The police will look at you and go, well, she couldn't possibly have broken the law. Look at these tweets. I mean,
I'll tell you what, though. Tell you what, no one steals a second.
No, it's true.
Diesel Tiguan. I mean, you could literally leave the keys in it,
but in the UK,
the windows down, and with a sign saying "Steal me." Still be outside the house.
But at the same time, in the UK, nobody steals these high-end cars because they're all owned by people who, turns out, are part of the criminal enterprises, shall we say.
Who knew? Who knew?
Your options are don't steal the banger or really don't steal the expensive car.
It's not a banger. It works very well. It's a lovely car. Thank you, Vito.